I think the more cycles you can spend being tuned into and honoring the various parts of your cycle before you conceive, the better foundation you're setting. And also the more tuned in you're going to be to when you can conceive. So double bonus. When we live in a way that
Absolutely.
honors our cyclical rhythms, then we remain nourished and in a state of just overall wellness. But if we push and
Yeah.
constantly all month long push and push and push and push ourselves as if we are men in a men's world, that eventually takes a toll on all aspects of
Yeah.
our health, fertility included. Holy Wild Birth is a podcast embracing the reclamation of giving birth, rooted in God's original design, undisturbed.
Here, we share homebirth stories highlighting God's presence as the great midwife, as well as conversations about all aspects of a holistic, spirit-led childbearing year. From the perspectives of myself, traditional midwife Lauren Hall of Rooted in Eden Private Contract Association,
and me, holistic doula and birthkeeper Brooke Collier of Sister Birth.
To choose a holy wild birth journey is to consecrate all your decisions unto the Lord.
And to reclaim creation unadulterated by centuries of human attempts to control and improve upon what God has already called good.
Please remember, birth is not a medical event, but a natural process. We are not your care providers, and this should not be taken as medical advice. Hello, we are back to Holy Wild Birth, and we have a lovely episode on preconception. Just going to have a conversation about all of the things that can kind of come up in fertility planning, both heart, soul, and mind and body, and spirit. So I think it's going to be a fun conversation, and ultimately we just hope that while this is going to, have some informative things on how to live as designed in a healthy, whole way, we also just always, and in all of things, but in especially this concept of bringing forth life, that we are not the keepers of life and death, that firmly belongs in the Lord's hands, that Yahweh is sovereign and that He is the giver of life. And He is the holder of our time and our baby's time, and that we just both have had a heart that this would not be a heavy burden for any woman who is already tired, who's already waiting on the Lord for her being ability to conceive, that this would be received with grace, and just it would be a light yoke, that it would not be something that she would take on like, this is not your fault. This is not your burden of responsibility falling on you. You're called to steward your health. And that is what we hope to bring to you, is some ways to steward your health. But ultimately, God holds the keys of life, and He is the one that knows your perfect time and the journey that He wants to grow you through before He grows a baby in your womb. So, and even recognize that sometimes that's not part of every woman's journey, and that's okay as well. That we were created for more than just this, and this does not. An inability to carry a life within your womb does not remove you from being a woman. And I just felt very clearly wanted to say that this is not an attack upon your womanhood. You are more than just a bearer of women are more than just a bearer of children. So we're first, our identity is always as daughter of Him, and that cannot be taken, and that is firm no matter what's going on in your life. You are a daughter.
Well said. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
so I'm
nice.
glad we started with that because we're gonna jump into a lot of like practical points about what it looks
Yes.
to, I like to say, prepare the soil of our wombs for the seed of life. And I mean, it's good news, right? That there is a lot that we can do to prepare that soil
Yes.
so that it
Yes.
is a place where life can land and flourish. And even though it's still always God in the end, like I think for most of us, it feels like good to feel we can be proactive participants in just um, saying yes, not only with like our heart to having a new life grow in us, but yes, with some really practical ways that we live our lives and use our bodies. And um, yeah, we get to be active participants, not just sitting around
Yes.
wishing and hoping while changing, like without doing anything to say
Right.
yes with our bodies as well as our hearts. So,
Mm.
but it does start with that willingness and the openness to life that's in kind of an internal yes. I've been really blessed lately by thinking about Mary and how
Mm.
the angel appeared to her and said, like, you've been chosen to carry the Messiah. And it hadn't occurred to me until recently that she didn't have to say yes. There was
Mm.
like she had a moment where she had the opportunity to say yes to that, and she
Yeah.
gave it. And I just like what an honor to walk in the lineage of Mary and to be able to say our yeses in our own way
Mhm.
to what God might want to bring into our wombs. And so I think that is a first step in this preconception journey is that
Absolutely.
internal posture of yes. Um,
Mm. Like, I just wanna give, like, almost a moment of silence, like, let that hit
hmm,
you. Mm. Like, do you have an internal yes for what he wants to place in your life, in your womb?
hmm,
Um, mm, it is such a, uh it's a beautiful picture of how he asks to co-partner with us, that he even though he is sovereign and he really doesn't need to ask our permission for anything, that he chooses to, and he honors us, and he walks with us, and not just of anybody who could lord something over women, it
hmm,
is him, and yet he
hmm.
doesn't, you know? The Lord of Lords doesn't lord over his power over us, and it's just such a beautiful thing that he would ask for our internal yes.
Yeah. Mhm. And as with so many things about this conversation, I actually feel like there's the literal yes to what he might want to put in our lives through our, but then also
Mhm.
figuratively, like it drives me to
Yeah,
think, am I giving God my yes in other areas of my life besides just the contents of
absolutely.
my womb?
Right,
um, and because it was about more than just the contents of her womb for Mary too. She was saying yes
for
to
sure.
all that that meant and came
All that.
with, and it was
I
a
mean,
powerful
with the
yes that
Easter
changed the
being
world.
with Easter being so recent, it makes me think
Mhm.
of, she said yes to the hardships too. She said
Yeah.
yes to knowing, um, all of that, right? Like, I always it's funny. I'm always bothered by the Mary, did you know? And I'm like, yes, she knew. Did you not read your Bible? Like, like she knew. And she said yes to walking the hardship of seeing her son die on the cross as well, right? Like,
Mhm.
that was like a mom's cry out for that loss of her child. Um, and even like, ah, I don't know, the bitterness of that, and yet she said yes. Like, there's such a beautiful gratitude, um, that even in the times of, like, hardship, he's with us and he's asking, like, "Hey, I wanna carry you on this journey. I wanna carry you deeper still. Like, do you wanna come with me?" And, not that we obviously are in control of, like, if we didn't say yes, we avoid traumas and tragedies, but but I don't know. There's just a I've been thinking about, reading the Beatitudes recently, actually, and just blessed are those who mourn, um,
Mm,
for they will inherit the earth in Matthew 5. And I don't know. I just think about how interconnected that is.
mhm. I wasn't going to do this, but if it's okay with you, Lauren, I had written this prayer for my little mini Nourishing Fertility course, and it's all about
Yeah,
this, like positioning our spirits
awesome.
in our preconception journey. And I thought maybe I'll just read it.
Yeah, let's open with that.
Okay. And it's very much tying into what we were just talking about, but here it is.
Mm,
Father, the creator of life, from whose spoken word all life springs, I agree with you. To be fertile and fruitful is one way you have made me bear your image on the earth. With equal parts joyful anticipation and nervous ambivalence, I present my womb to you, a living
mm,
sacrifice. You crafted every inch of this messy, sacred temple with brilliant craftsmanship and called it good. This is the place in me that you created to incubate, nourish, and bring forth life.
mm,
And I commit to nourishing that place with my actions and by the posture of my heart toward it. A good gift I will not despise. Into your hands, I entrust my womb and every associated system and process too marvelous for me to understand.
mm,
Apart from your grace holding it all together, blessing and sanctifying it, it is nothing. I cannot force life any more than I can direct the course of a river, nor can I prevent life if you have purpose to give it, no matter the efforts I extend to do so. Truly, this is not so much in my control as I like to think it is. Forgive me for the times that I've positioned myself as a god over this part of my life. You haven't given me this sacred responsibility and this sacred inner sanctum as a burden to control, but as a gift to steward, surrender, and entrust to you. You who sees further and deeper than I ever could, and you who are called the God who sees me.
mm,
I trust you to know whether, when, how, and with whom to fill my womb with life. And while that part is up to you, I will faithfully tend to the responsibilities that are mine. Use it as you will, Lord. Thank you for creating me as a woman. May I know you more deeply through this unique female body in which I am clothed.
mm.
Amen.
Amen. You as we were praying, I began to see just women listening to that prayer and placing their hands upon their womb and just
Mm,
really giving their yes and praying that. Um, and actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and clip that and let you hear it again at the very end of this podcast, and put in the show notes where that starts so that as you want to hear that prayer and do that very thing, you don't have to sift through the podcast to find where it starts. I'm just going to put it again at the end, so that you can, really prepare your heart to really receive it and really pray it yourself.
great.
Thank you
Yeah, so
for
that's the
offering that
first
up,
things
Brooke.
first. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's actually good
absolutely.
for me to read it again too. It's like, yeah, it's kind of a prayer to repeat from time to time, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Um, so yes, in the ways of Hearthmother, we start with prayer, right? And that internal yes, is definitely a part of that. Um, and then it is in the waiting, right? And I think that is such a huge part of preconception and really honestly the ways of women in our entire lives is this living in the in between, living in that waiting, um, for what we, aren't in control of. The
Yeah.
waiting between each month, each ovulation and bleed and or no bleed,
Mm-hmm.
And so in that, I would say, don't look at the waiting as a waiting room, but look at a waiting as the Hebrew word shows us as an intertwining with Him. So that in your waiting, in those time periods between um, ovulation and intimacy and that 2 week wait, that you would use that to be a time of intertwining with the Lord. Use it as a time of intimacy with Him, and to lean in on the Lord and what He has for you in the exact season and the exact moment
Mm-hmm.
that you are in. I think that's so very important, and I think it lifts the not the anticipation. I've lost my word, but just that like agonizing like the agonizing weight of that's can be so anxiety filled, and just feeling like you're out of control, in such a negative manner. And I think if we
Mhm.
use that time to instead, as I've been saying recently, the sunset, the sunrise, these are the times of in between, right? And there are the colors that, like, if the sunrise
Mm.
is the color of the in between, what could it look like to actually enjoy the colors of the in between? We don't rush past the sunrise or the sunset and wish it was over. We savor those colors. And so I would just
I love
encourage you
that.
to find the colors of the waiting times in your life
Mhm.
and enjoy those instead of waiting for the sun to rise completely, because
That's
the
good.
sun is beautiful and it is shining and it's warm and it brings all of that goodness. But so does the sunrise, so does the sunset, so does the night. There is beauty in all of it.
That's a good word. And I mean, because let's connect that with some real talk. I've been
Yeah,
here before, and I'm sure some of our listeners have, where the 2-week wait is it's psychologically a hard space if you're hoping to be pregnant, or
yeah,
if you're not, if you're hoping not to be, I guess it can be hard in a different way.
yeah.
But like the tendency to want to get those early results, pregnancy tests, and pee on them every
Hmm.
single day, maybe multiple times a day, with this like obsessively looking for signs and
Yeah.
um yeah, it's really easy to go there. So I appreciate that
Hmm.
word to kind of like consider where's my heart and my spirit in that, and would it be wisdom to back off from that sort of obsessive, watchful, analyzing behavior and sit
Yeah.
in this space in a different way? And again, there's not judgment on that.
No.
I have so been there, but I have been feeling challenged myself to kind of try to shift out of that way of being in that 2-week space.
Yeah.
Um, because eventually our bodies will tell us the truth.
Exactly.
They just
Yeah.
will. So, um, and you can and so almost having this mental resolve, like, "I'm not even gonna take a test, I'm just gonna wait for a missed period," opens up a lot of space for me of
Hmm.
it helps me get free of the obsessive
Yeah.
stuff. And I know that you didn't even take a test last time at
Nope.
all,
I sure
right?
didn't.
You just
Yeah.
waited till your
And then
body
I
told you.
stopped temping because realized
Mhm.
quickly that, like, oh,
Mm,
I'm looking at my temps. And, because I was looking for that second rise, right? You
yeah.
have the first rise because you ovulated, and then if you're pregnant and implantation happens, you have a second rise. And I started realizing, like, okay, I don't want to test. I don't want to have external, like, I just want to live in the mystery. I don't want to forfeit the mystery anymore. And
I don't
then I
wanna forfeit
realized,
the mystery. Ooh, okay,
mhm,
that was just a good phrase,
and
sorry. Go ahead.
I no, you're good. Um, And so that's where I was at, but then I was so quickly realizing that I just replaced it with another
Mm,
way of telling instead of just going, I want to trust what the Lord has said. Like, He told me, He had already told me I had life within my
mm,
womb. And then I was looking to, like, confirm what I knew, what I
yeah.
felt in my body, what I felt, that little spirit within me. I think you said Leela. It was actually Willow and Wren.
Mhm.
Um, but, I didn't test with them. I did test with Leela and Levi. But, I had already felt that. Like, he told me that there was life there, and I could feel
Mm.
that spirit, that extra. I always say, like, I have my spirit and then the Holy Spirit, and then when I'm pregnant, like, there's another spirit in there. Like, I
Extra
can feel
spirit.
that, like, there's a whole extra person. And that time there was a whole extra 2 people. And, and it just, I don't know, I didn't want to forfeit that mystery. And so I did just really let go of the external measurements. And I don't think that
Mhm.
means letting go of, like, the things that you can feel in the physical that are just automatically there, that no matter what time period you lived in, no matter what scientific information you had, that you would know, right? Like,
Yeah.
your own, like, it's okay to be like, oh wow, he gave me this pregnancy symptom. He gave me this sign, this understanding, this knowing, this whatever it is. Um, I think that's part of the intertwining with him. I think that's like on, okay, I see what you've given me. I see what you're
Mm,
telling me. Um, and not that it's wrong to temp or to test or to, you know, get an ultrasound or, any of those things. But I have been thinking about that, like, microwave society has
Mhm.
created such a now, now, now. I can know now. I want the information now. And what are we forfeiting by not intertwining? What are we forfeiting by running ahead of God's design to know?
Mhm.
Um, it's,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, we can see it as as in so many things in our childbearing journey, like, if
Mhm.
you choose to use it that way, you can use even the 2-week wait as a spiritual practice that
Yeah,
has carryover effect to other parts of your walk with the Lord. Like, if we can practice waiting on Him and tuning to His voice and being slow in that space of in between and not knowing, then we can also carry that out to other parts of our life where that same practice and discipline is and that muscle is needed, you know?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's an
Yeah,
invitation, not like a moral dictate. It's an invitation.
right. It's, and and on the opposite of, I mean, hmm, as you intertwine with him and he calls you to test, or he calls you to have an ultrasound, or he
Mhm.
calls you to do those things because you've been trusting him in that waiting period, because you've been intertwining and you've been keening your mm, turning your ear to his voice, you're going to know when it is time to step into those kinds of external things. Like, external
Yeah.
validations are not wrong.
Right, we
We
don't
just
wanna
have
ever
to,
demonize that.
right. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay to seek wise counsel, to seek outside, sources of information. He put us in community for a reason. There are, they're not wrong. It's about rightly ordered and
Mhm.
listening to him and going the way he guides you versus letting our fear or anxiety or our impatience, or lack of self control or any of that to guide it. It's rather, I'm going to cultivate the spirit or the fruits of the spirit in my life. I'm going to use self control. I'm going to, be gentle even with myself and just allow what is to be, and intertwine with him.
Mhm. Perfect. Yes. Yes. There's so much nuance here. I hope that's something
Yes,
you all hear in this podcast often is nuance.
I think so.
Like, okay, I hope so.
Possibly
Yes.
nauseating levels.
Okay. That is possible. We're not the cut and dry black and white sort of people over here.
You are not getting
Okay.
that from us.
So that was a little bit about step 2 of the way of the Hearth Mother, which is the waiting on the Lord. And
Yeah.
then, do we wanna just go through the steps kind of as we address these things? We might as well.
I guess
Like,
so, we can. I think the other
get
2, I
curious.
think really, most of what we have on our notes is in that live as designed, but I guess to just
Yeah.
quickly say, like, it is important to get curious. It is important to, engage the body of Christ, and in this aspect, I would say engaging the body of Christ would be engaging your husband in this, these decisions, having those conversations, getting curious in your life about, like, is this the right time? Is this, like, circling through those questions of, like, okay, God, I have your yes, but I'm getting curious about what do I need to do to prepare my body? What do I need? How can I be stewarding my body, our finances, our home, the things that we're, making choices about? Like, just lifting up those questions and having them, with your husband, with good,
Mhm.
wise counsel in your in your circle of influence, right? And then, not circle of influence, what do I mean? Your circle of community. Like that, like getting that wise counsel, um, and then circling that through. Okay, we've got some answers to some of those questions. Let's pray through those again. Let's wait on the Lord for those answers. Let's, walk through that. But then as we step into, um the practicals, that's really that live as design step. And I think that's where most people would start the conversation, and where I think a huge part of it is. So we can dive there now, I think.
Okay, yeah. That is the practical stuff that we probably would get into. So, um, yeah, so I feel like we often
Yeah.
oh, wait, first, before we dive in, we also wanted to just say something about the fact that this conversation is for men too. Um, it's true that we have a long
Yeah.
history of assuming that all of this is up to women, but we now know that it's really not. Male factor in fertility is just as real as female, and also we now know that the role of the men's sperm in the development of the placenta and other aspects of the baby is really important. So his sperm
Yeah.
being healthy is just as important as your womb and your eggs being healthy.
Mhm.
So you can
Yes,
share this with
absolutely.
your significant other. A lot of the steps we're going to go through or the things we're going to share are just as applicable for him as they are for you.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's mind-blowing to recognize that it's the man that builds the placenta, um, and that deep impact that his health has on miscarriage, on preeclampsia, on gestational diabetes,
Oh yeah,
on
breathe
preterm labor, like on IUGR, anything that is connected to the health of the placenta is is directly connected to the man's health. And so all of that is so important. So like you said, like this is going to be conversations around what humans can do to make sure that they are healthy for the conception and pregnancy um, time period because
Yeah.
his health matters as well.
Hmm.
So,
Yep. His
uh,
contribution is
think
bigger. We always joke that the men's contribution takes about 2 minutes or something. And then be
right.
like,
It's
yes, but also no, because he has
right.
to be well.
He has to be well, and it's all of the. I saw a funny like meme, and I would like to look at how much because I mean he's making sperm every day, but like I know like for women, our health of our egg is about 3 months. That past 3 months of how long we've been building that follicle. What was going on 3 months ago is impacting your cycle, this month. And so I wonder because he's making sperm daily, but I would like to dive into that. Like how much of that past health is impacting the sperm creation of that day? Like how long does that take? Because he is building way more rapidly. Um, where we have this kind of long impact. I wonder how long his is. I have seen a
Yeah.
funny reel of like, oh, she has to grow a baby for 9 months, so I should be, you know, spending 9 months of my life before we try to conceive, being in the best health possible. Um, but yeah, I would wonder what scientifically, if we even know yet, like, has anybody even asked that um, from the research side of things? But that would be a
When I
curious
was
thing
doing
to
some
look into.
research for Nourishing Fertility, I came up with
Hmm.
this little tidbit, and I apparently didn't cite my source here, but that sperm take about 42 to 72 days to develop into maturity. So it can take that
Hmm.
many days or more of his efforts to maximize the quality of his reproductive germ cells. Um, so 72 days is what, a month and a half? No, 2 months, a little over 2 months. So it's I don't know. Again, I didn't say my source, but we're looking at least 2 or 3 months, I would say.
Right. So you said, that's very cool. Glad that you had that information. Thank you.
Yeah, I should have written down where I found it, but all right. So we may have to verify that later and put something in the show notes. Okay, so now
Yeah.
nutrition. Let's start with that. I feel like we always start there because it's, yeah, I don't know, food. We care about food.
Food. We do. I think, it's the fuel, right? Like we were given fuel to fuel our bodies. We know that we can't live without water and food. And I think that is a huge aspect um of this conversation to nourish that soil, as you said. I love the beautiful analogy of that kind of garden picture. Do you want to like share that actually?
Like verbally, since we don't have video here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like, share the
Sure.
concept.
Yeah, and then I will link to this little micro course in the show notes too. It's free, so anybody can grab it if they want. You can see my nifty little graphic that I'm going to talk about. I just made this little gardening graphic and use this gardening metaphor. And in it, there's like the two seed packets, one representing the sperm, one representing your eggs. And then there's, of course, the little sprout, which is the baby. And then I have like a bag of natural fertilizer, nutrition, the soil being like your womb. This little insect like that will eat your garden, the toxins in your environment. And then I have like a swirly cloud to represent stress and how that can wreak havoc in a garden, like the wind can. and the storms. And then a watering can to represent like your hormones, and the sun over it all as God, the giver of life. And that probably doesn't translate quite as well into words as it does in a picture, but there it is.
I think
So,
so. I think it's kind of a beautiful picture to just think about, like, okay, how are we tending our garden? How are we tending that? And so I think it's a beautiful little metaphor. And I often think about, um, I always tell people actually with water, it's kind of, not being the hormones, but like literal water that you're drinking,
yep, that too.
is one of the most healthy, like if you're going to make a shift in your health, I think that changing your water source and really looking into your water is one of the very most impactful things that you can do. We are made up of water. And when we look at water, not just filtered, but not thirsty water, I call it thirsty water if it's mineral depleted. So mineral rich, structured water. So again, the structure actually speaks to it being alive water, not dead water. And I think it's very interesting that he talks about being the living water, and
Mm.
that we need to have, we need to be rooted by flowing, the living water, and we need to, have him as living water. And I think that that is mirrored in creation. And so having mineral rich, restructured or structured water, the best that you could get is straight from the ground spring water. Um, Obviously that it's, been tested and not been dumped
It's
with
not
toxins.
contaminated. Yeah.
Yeah, contaminated, that's the word. Checking that it's not contaminated, but a good clean spring water, that is the best that you can get. But then there's lots of ways of then filtering and re-adding minerals and restructuring, to get as God made water for us to consume. I think that's one of the most
Mm.
impactful things we can do for our health, as I said. And then you get into like the nutrition, the fuel of our bodies. Um, and that is such a big conversation. Such a big
Yeah.
conversation. Where would you want to start with that?
Oh gosh, I don't even know because one could do an entire episode about this. And you
Right.
and Cindy did do one about pregnancy nutrition. And I guess preconception nutrition isn't all that much different. I mean,
Hmm.
some of the basics are the same. Um,
Yeah.
eat real food, like
Eat real food. Yeah.
real whole foods. And I don't mean Whole Foods, the grocery store. I mean like whole foods, like a whole plant, all the parts of an animal, like whole in that
Yeah.
way.
It should be
Um,
recognizable as the food. I once heard it said,
right.
like, if your great grandmother couldn't look and recognize what you're eating, you should consider whether it's actually food or not. Like,
Yeah. Michael Pollan, who wrote this book like a few decades ago now, where he did this like cool investigative like thing about food. He came up with these main principles, which was eat real food, mostly plants, not too much. And I think he might have been the one who in his book said that phrase about if your grandmother wouldn't recognize it, like don't eat it.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
I don't know. I think I
Although,
heard it from Cindy, so I don't know where
oh,
where,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that you have
But
the
yeah,
source
that's
of
a
it.
helpful principle for
Yeah.
sure to just ask yourself. And like when you're at the grocery store, that often looks like shopping the perimeter of the store. That's where the Whole
Yeah.
Foods tend to be. When you get into the middle aisles, you're starting to step into the more processed things that are shelf stable, and they're shelf
Right.
stable because they're processed and have additives. Um, so
Hmm.
there's foods to purposely include. And we know that, I mean, honestly, Lauren and I are both convinced that a vegan diet is not ideal for fertility and pregnancy, that it's really the
For
animal
sure.
foods are the most supportive. But the quality of those animal foods matters significantly.
Hmm.
Uh, like
Absolutely.
having wild caught salmon, grass fed beef, free range chicken, um, that are fed organic foods that are appropriate for their bodies and not
Yeah.
like feed lot, like GMO
Right.
stuff.
And treated harshly their entire lives so that we could eat
Right.
them. Like,
Yeah.
you know, so yes, absolutely. I think, eating, I am never for removing a full macro space, like if you're removing all
Mhm.
carbs, removing all, fats, or like there should be, um, if we're removing an entire food source, I have some questions. Now there's
Yes.
times and places, and there's a lot of this is generalized information, not personalized. And I do think that you can and even should get personalized um, nutrition viewpoint for yourself, and like what's going on with your minerals, what's going on in your lifestyle, what's going on in your, stress resilience, which, quickly brings me into like minerals. I'm a big proponent of like running HTMAs when we need a understanding of like what it would be a good nutritional plan for anybody. I would start to say women, but honestly for anyone. Um, and I love them because it can give us really a deep insight on what is your stress resilience? What is going on? How are you not just getting minerals in, but how is your body using them? What are you excreting? What toxic metals are you excreting? What toxic metals are you holding on to? And it's a big web of, our minerals are so important, and they are like little cogs in a machine, like gears. And if you have one missing, it's not going to affect just that. For instance, just the zinc. The zinc is going to affect your copper, and your copper is going to affect your iron, and on and on and on. That copper is going to affect your estrogen, and all of these things. They are the spark plugs of the body, as it is said often, and they deeply interplay. And so these things are going to be best received through whole food, because you can get into like, okay, you are really low on magnesium, or you are really low on zinc, or whatever it is. If you begin to, for instance, magnesium, honestly, most people are deficient in magnesium in today's society, not just even because of soil, but because of stress load, because they're burning through it so much. And we're all living in such high demand and um, fight or flight, mode, and we're burning through our magnesium. And so, yes, most people can really benefit from magnesium, but if you start taking magnesium before you have adequate potassium, they are antagonistic and actually synergistic with each other. And I call them frenemies. Like sometimes they work really well together, and sometimes they don't. and, and it really depends on your levels. And so if you are taking a magnesium supplement, the best of the best, super bioavailable, you're taking magnesium glycinate or bicarbonate or malate or something, and it's a great source and all the things, and you've done your homework, but you are eating like no potassium, you are hurting yourself.
Mm. Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and so like knowing, really going into less supplements of it, not that they don't have a place, because they do, and I recommend them, on a personalized standpoint with my clients and whatnot. But I think that it's absolutely food first, always, because you have to look at the whole, um, the whole picture of that food. God put the minerals that work together in the food always in the right levels. It's amazing. Um,
Mhm.
and so yeah, that's my little spiel on minerals. And it's probably
Yeah.
short. I could talk on minerals all day long. But I think
And
that
maybe someday we will have you do a whole episode because I think that would be
yeah,
worthwhile.
absolutely.
But the minerals are tied in with the food because that's where they come
That's where
from
we go.
primarily,
Yeah.
um,
And our water.
and keep in mind, just to tie it back into actual food for a minute too,
Yeah.
it's just as we're talking about how your meat quality matters, so does your vegetable quality. Like,
Hmm.
the more locally sourced from farms that have biodiversity and organic farming practices,
Yeah.
the more you can get your vegetables from those sorts of sources, the better it's going to be for the minerals that she was
Yeah.
just talking about. Because the minerals that show up in the vegetable is tied in with the mineral content of the soil in which the vegetable was
Yes.
grown. So
Yep.
when we have these monoculture sort of situations where it's just acres upon acres of the same vegetable grown over and over and over again, and this being sprayed with pesticides and all the things, that's not going to result in as rich of a vegetable
Yep.
as one that your farmer down the street grew. Or that you
Absolutely.
grow in your own
Or
backyard,
that you
better yet.
grow.
I am not a gardener,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Support the
Um,
farmers or grow it yourself. Those kinds of things are going to be, I absolutely um, believe in that. We have to cultivate the land, and just as much as we are being good stewards of our body, we should be good stewards of the land that grows our food, and that they are
mhm.
synergistic in that way. So it is definitely important to be looking at our fruits and our veggies, and our herbs, that they are, ideally
Our milk.
organically grown on
Oh, that's
on
yuck. Yeah.
soil that is, mineral rich and has been cultivated well. And yes, our milks, our dairies, all of the things that
Which brings
they're
me to the idea of
higher quality.
there's nutrient dense, right? So another thing about food that I guess I want to make sure we say is you have to be eating enough. You can't be in a
Yes.
starvation mode and expect to
Hmm.
be a super fertile human.
Right.
Adequate caloric intake is good, and the caloric intake should be nutrient dense. So
Yes,
not
absolutely.
we're not talking about just like eat as many empty carbs as you can and cheap food. Like you can eat I feel like you can eat less of really high quality food and get the same nutritional impact as if you ate a whole bunch of less nutrient dense food. So it's partly about the
Yeah.
actual number of calories and also partly about the quality of the calories that you are
Hmm.
taking in.
Yeah. And
Um,
I will say
but in a
that
culture
is
that tells
the,
women to be skinny and to starve ourselves and to not eat too much because we might get fat, we have to come against that actively if we want to have wombs that are ready for life.
absolutely. And I will say that is what I see the most in my midwifery, practice, as I am working with women and then like health coaching as well. Like, I'll have women, they're eating great stuff. Like, they're getting all, like the choices that they made are amazing, and it's absolutely top tier quality. And then they're eating like half a meal a day, and you're like,
Mm,
okay, but you have to eat the food that you bought, like you have to bring that in. Um, and they're so busy in their life. They've turned off their hunger cues, through high cortisol, turns off your hunger cues. And I always, it's like your
mhm.
ringer's off, like it's not that you're not getting calls, it's that you can't hear them anymore. Because that superpower that is cortisol that we want to have, if it's running your life, you're pulling from your progesterone to run that cortisol. You're not getting enough calories to actually build a healthy corpus luteum that builds our progesterone after conception, so that you can sustain a nice luteal phase and or sustain a pregnancy. Like, all of that is deeply connected to the caloric intake. And there's so many women not eating enough food. And so, yes, eat as high quality as you possibly can get in. Bless that food. If it's not if it is high quality, but like, honestly, if it's low quality and that's what you have, that's what you've been given, you're on WIC, you're, getting the food that the food pantry gave you, you're in a situation where you're not in control of the food for whatever reason
Yeah.
it might be, economic or food deserts or all of the things. Bless your food. The Lord said that we would eat poison and not be harmed. And I have prayed that many a times at a church potluck.
Mm.
So, like, truly, I believe that we can bless that food and bless our water and pray for it to be restructured, that it would be beneficial to our bodies. And I think, like, I say it jokingly, but I truly mean it. Like, he is the creator of that food. And if we are eating food that is actually food, now if you're trying to eat something that was never food to begin with, like, you can bless Velveeta all day long, but I don't know that it'll ever be food. Um, but if you have, lower quality meat or lower quality eggs, or something that is a whole plant, you're eating that watermelon, but it came from a farm that you're, just a mass produced whatever. Bless that food. and trust the Lord to, restructure that and let it, seep the minerals that it has into your body and to hold its toxins and that you would not be harmed. Like, I think that that's very much scriptural. And I definitely don't want to heap on shame around the ability to access food in this world. It
Yeah.
is,
Mhm.
um, it's difficult. And yet, I think that when as someone who has lived in deep poverty in the past, bless the Lord, I am no longer. But I have deeply been in some severe poverty and not know where my next meal was coming from. And I have absolutely lived that, like, okay, God, this is what you have blessed me with. I'm gonna
Mhm.
what I bring into my house is going to be things that you have convicted me to buy. But if you give me food through other sources, through, benevolence of others, I'm gonna trust that it came from your hand and that, you know, it's good for me. Like, I'm praying for organic manna, but if all I'm getting is manna, like, I will eat that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Right, because we can't let the ideal be the enemy of the good here either, right? Like,
Right.
I feel like you could get so afraid of like, "Oh, my food isn't good enough," like, that you don't eat, and I think that would be a grave mistake.
Mhm.
It would be a grave
Yes.
mistake. So,
Yes,
it's better to
absolutely.
eat, even if the food is not perfect, but blessed,
Yeah.
than to, only eat real food when you have it if that's n not very often. Like,
If
eat,
it's not
eat,
very
eat.
often. Eat
Yeah.
food. Eat your food.
All right. Well, I feel like we could probably go on about nutrition for a long time because we both feel pretty passionately about it. But
Yes.
um, let's okay.
I so
We were going to talk about supplements, but I don't know if we want to maybe save that for a minute.
yeah. Um, I think we can move into another thing that is just as big that doesn't get enough, maybe is starting to get some attention, is like our nervous system regulation, our stress
Hmm.
management, how much we're using our bodies, because I talk about it kind of like an account. We can be putting in all of the money, but if our expenses are more than our income,
Yeah.
you're gonna, the budget is out of whack. And so our nervous system and our stress management, even in some circles, will say that's more important than your nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
because
Hmm.
if you're, and I think it's probably equal in my viewpoint, but it is a huge part of the conversation. If you're getting in all of those that great nutrition and all of these great minerals, mineral rich water, and you're doing all the things, and nothing is shifting, it's likely your nervous system. It's likely what's, like the trauma that's not been processed. It's the stress management. It's the going, 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 and you're burning through all your minerals and you're burning through all of those calories. And there's no staying power to it because it's just trying to make sure that you live through the moment. Um, and it's not sustainable. And your body starts to go, okay, we must be in a war. It's not time to build new life. Like, she's on the battlefield. I don't know what's happening out there, but I've got all the signals that it's not safe. It's not good. We need to let it be, like, shut things down, shut the factory down. And we don't make babies in that state of depletion, and then state of stress because of that. The body is trying to prioritize your survival. And if it thinks you're in the middle of a war, you're in the middle of a famine, it's not going to try and give you another mouth to feed.
Right. Yeah, because it's so smart. It's taking care of you
It's, yeah,
in a way
yep.
you think you don't want to be taken care of, but
Right, exactly. And so you have to give it the signals it needs to know that it is time and it is safe. And half of that is going back to the calories, but some of it is like, okay, let's stop using up this. Let's let it make
Mhm.
sure that we're not using more than we are putting in, right?
Yeah. And so there's 2 parts I feel like to that. One is like to the degree that it is within your power to do so, to eliminate circumstances in your life that are creating consistent stress.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's just not possible. So then the other part of
Yeah.
it is training our bodies to recognize when it's responding to something that is really a minor threat as if it is a major threat.
Mm.
Like that, you've probably heard people say, my body doesn't know the difference between being chased by a tiger and my toddler throwing a fit. Like our
Right.
bodies can get confused like that and start to react in that extreme fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response to something that
Mhm.
is actually pretty minor. So it's a matter of just retraining your body to not respond that way through some really specific steps. So knowing how to let stressors not land as stress on a cellular level in your nervous system.
Yes.
um,
Yes.
when for those things that you can't take away the stressor, you can
Mhm.
still mitigate the impact of it on your body and your nervous
Absolutely.
system. So
Yeah, and I
that's a
think some of this goes back to that praying and waiting on the Lord's steps that we teach, is, like, are you praying and waiting on the Lord throughout your day? Is that a checkbox thing, or are you continually in that state of, okay, even though I can't control the environment, that I'm in right now, I can't control the circumstances that I'm in right now. In all things, I can be grateful. In all things, I can lean on the Lord. And that is going to make a huge impact on your nervous system in those times. And I also think about like what is in your control is your thought life, right? Like take your thoughts captive and make
Mhm.
them obedient to Christ. These are simple steps that you can absolutely implement today, no matter what, is like, how are you waking up and how are you going to sleep? What are the things that are in your thought life when you're going to bed? What is the first things you're doing when you're waking up? Um, Now, outside of someone who may be listening that's in complete incredible dangers in their life, um, these are in a generalized life. You can wake up and spend your first thoughts on Him. Your first thoughts of, okay, Lord, this is your day. Let me be glad in
Yeah.
it. What do you want? What my agenda's on the altar. What do you want for this day? What do you want for this moment? And starting our day is going to impact how we go to sleep at night, and how we go to sleep at
Mhm.
night is going to impact how we wake up in the morning. And and I'm really big on my relationship with light lately, and
Mhm.
what does it look like with blue light and artificial light, and letting the sun and the moon govern our days, as it says in Genesis, versus this ability to turn on lights whenever we want them.
Mhm.
What is that stolen from our circadian rhythm and um our not there's the other, not circadian, there's another rhythm that I lost the word for. But just our systems in our body need that light, and we are to be governed by this sunlight and the moonlight, and we're not anymore, and that deeply has an impact on our nervous system as well. Um, so I think it's just as important as our nutrition conversation, but there are
Mhm.
simple one-step things that we can do. Turning on the blue light filters on our phone, that night little, uh, what is it called? The night screen on
Night
your
mode.
iPhone,
Yeah.
night
Mhm.
mode. Turn that on for the whole day.
Yeah.
Like, hack the little system. You don't, it's never a good level. There's never, even in the day, you don't need that light. So turn on night mode and turn it on to go off at 2 a.m. and to turn on at 2:01 a.m. And so that it's always on. And that, like, you don't need to see that. It's never a good light. Um, those things, or you can get the screen protectors, you can get uh, blue light blocking glasses. You can make sure you're going outside, and if you wear contacts or glasses, taking those off, or making sure that you have brands that don't block UV light. You want to get that UV light in your eyes. All of that is going to have a deep impact on your hormone levels and
Yeah.
cycles within your body.
Yeah. I'm really glad you brought that up. That's probably not one that as many people think about naturally.
Hmm.
Yeah. So light, which then impacts sleep, which impacts hormones. It's
Hmm.
all so connected.
Deeply. All
Um,
right.
Also, let's talk about toxins maybe for a minute and the
Yeah,
importance
absolutely.
of we live in a toxin-laden world. And again,
Hmm.
we're not going to be able to avoid all of it, but those things that are in our control. Um, for me, I think it started with swapping out body products and cleaner products, like
Absolutely.
just having a commitment
Absolutely.
to and you can't do it all at once. You just pick one
Mhm.
product at a time to swap out, and you'll eventually get there. So everything that you put on your skin, especially because your skin is your biggest and most absorbent organ. And so anything you're putting on there is coming into your body, and circulating there. So when it's
Mhm.
skincare, toothpaste, hair care,
Mhm.
soaps, laundry detergents, cleaning supplies, um, yeah, just make a commitment to trying to reduce those things because you can control that. You might not be able to control what people are spraying in the sky or pumping out the back of their cars in the highway, but you can control that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I also think about like plastics and how deeply
mhm.
connected they are to estrogen levels. Um, and that was definitely the first thing in my crunchy journey as well, was like body products, cleaning products, and plastics, removing that
Yeah.
from my life, as much as I could. And as we say these things, I also um pray about them. Ask the Lord, like, okay, God,
Mm.
I'm convicted about this. This is something that I want to change. I'm seeing a problem. You are the provider. You provide the way for me to live as designed. And
Mm.
like I get conversations about this, like, well, how did you afford to go to all natural fibers, or how did you afford to get rid of all the plastic and put glass in your, and you know healthy things
Mm.
in your, and because it looks expensive, especially if you're not living that life. Um, and I'm like, honestly, I prayed about it, like, and it felt so sacred nature to me, and I'm realizing it's not. That there are so many who don't think to say, like, he does care. If he is putting conviction upon you to do something, then he cares. Like, that
Mm.
conviction came from him, and he is going to equip those he calls. And that includes, if he is calling you to live a life as he designed it, to eat food that he created, to wear clothes that are made from fibers that he created, that to, not put on toxins onto your body, all of these things, they're part of his design. And he
Mm.
is the great provider. He is the one who owns a cattle on 1,000 hills, and he can absolutely make sure that when you walk into the thrift store, that you find linen. And he's no respecter person. He did it for me. And I completely overhauled my entire wardrobe simply by praying before I went to the thrift store, and or like going through bags that were donated to me and finding things that I could have never afforded. I have literally bought, items that are brand names of $300, $400 linen shirts that are organic linen, that I'm like, I didn't even know this brand existed. Okay. Like, I look it up and I'm like, what? And it was, at a free clothing store, like a free clothing closet that I was, got to go in and pick from, a fill your basket, whatever you want, free clothing closet by a church. Like, I'm
Yeah, I
sorry,
love
what?
that.
Who donates this? Somebody who the Lord
Somebody
asked
did.
to,
Yep.
somebody did.
And
And so
yeah.
he's good like that. He's so good, and he cares. And we've said this to our students in Hearthmother Journey, and they started doing that. And so many
Mhm.
testimonies started coming in. I prayed, and God told me when to go to the thrift store, and it was there. And I just found, and they were sharing these, special sales that had come up on their great, like, he cares. He cares about the details of your life. Um, so don't look at this of, I could never. You're right, you might never, but he can. He can. So that's
And
my little
let's
preachy
back that
moment.
up a minute because you jumped into natural fibers, and I don't know that everyone automatically considers that a toxin.
Oh yeah,
So
it's
let's
true.
talk briefly about why that is, and that very interesting polyester pants study.
Absolutely. Yes. So I
Polyester is
bring up natural
plastic.
fibers. Yes. Polyester is plastic. Plastics are deeply affected your hormones. They have a huge effect on your estrogen levels, which then are going to have an effect on your progesterone levels, on your testosterone levels. And there was a recent study, you may have seen it because it's been kind of going around on the interwebs lately. But there was a recent study on polyester pants on dogs. And I should have pulled it up for you all. But
We'll find it and link it in the show notes.
we can look, yeah, we'll link it there. But essentially, they were putting pants on these dogs for I think it was like 2 years at a time or a year, like an extended period of time. And just again, because I don't have it in front of me and I don't want to misquote numbers, essentially the fertility on both the female and the male dogs were deeply impacted. And it was a direct correlation because they put the pants on the dog. We're watching for the hormone levels. We're watching for the ability to conceive. And then they removed the pants and all of those things righted again. And so I bring up natural fibers in this because it does affect your fertility. Having synthetic fibers that are the way they've made, even bamboo. People think bamboo is a natural fiber because it says bamboo. Bamboo is rayon. And the way to make a hardwood a fiber is not a natural process. And so that, polyester, rayon, viscose, all of these synthetic fibers that like melt instead of burn into ash, like all of it is plastic. And you're putting it on your body over some of your most sensitive areas. So change your underwear first into cotton, like change
Yeah.
your, the things that are around your abdomen. Let that be cotton, linen, wool. Those are your natural fibers. Cotton, linen, wool. Linen is flax, same thing. But these are things that can make a huge direct impact on your fertility, both male and female. So that's my tiny, I'm trying to keep it
Yes. Thank
concise.
you. I know you could probably go longer, but
I could. I could talk
oh,
all day
I'm
about
realizing we could
a
probably
lot of
do an
things.
entire episode on almost every one of our talking points today, but that's okay.
Absolutely. We're just doing a
All right,
quick
so we'll leave it
flyover
there for
here.
now. Yeah, this is a quick flyover. So being conscious of your exposure to and use of plastics and other toxic things in your life.
Yeah.
You and your husband, again, it's for everyone.
Mhm.
Um, Another piece of
So
this, I guess, that we
with
haven't
the
hit on yet is,
exposure would also be the detox part of it. And I
oh
am
yeah,
definitely not a proponent of heavy detoxing, especially if you are minerally depleted, um, because that is going to be really hard on the body. Really, really hard on the body. We actually use heavy minerals in place of, like, heavy metals can displace our minerals. And one of the best ways to actually detox is to remineralize. It actually gives your body
pushes
more
out the
of the
toxins.
good stuff so that it can displace those toxins
I love
versus
that.
trying to like push them out because it's going to push everything out. And then you're going to leave yourself really depleted without even the toxic metals were being a compensator because you were in deficiency. And so just fixing the root of not burning through them and getting in enough of them will be a gentle detox, as well as things like lymph movement, you know, saunas, cold plunges, red light therapy, which we get natural red light by going out into the sun, especially at sunrise and sunset. That's your natural red light therapy. But red light, cold laser, those kinds of things that are just gently moving things versus like taking something to excrete it all at one time can really put your body into an extreme debt. It's like a bankruptcy.
Mm.
So, yeah, gentle movement of getting that out.
Yeah, that's great. And then we honoring your cyclical rhythm as a woman. Just
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is, I think, the more cycles you can spend being tuned into and honoring the various parts of your cycle before you conceive, the better foundation you're setting, and also the more tuned in you're going to be to when you can conceive. So double bonus. When we live in a way that
Absolutely.
honors our cyclical rhythms, then we remain nourished and in a state of just overall wellness. But if we push and
Yeah.
constantly all month long push and push and push and push ourselves as if we are men in a men's world, that eventually takes a toll on all aspects of
Yeah.
our health, fertility included. Um, and we've done an episode a little bit about that too. So go find
Hmm.
that if you want to talk more about that. I just wanted to make sure we mentioned it in this preconception
Absolutely.
conversation briefly too.
All right.
All right.
Well, I think that might be all of, I guess we didn't hit basic movement, moving your body. And, that is going to be really beneficial. When I think of fertility specifically on movement, I think about the blood sugar and our metabolic system, which is connected to our hormones as well, and just being healthy metabolically. Gentle movement after we eat is going to help regulate your blood glucose. It's one of the most simple ways outside of the nutrition side of the conversation, to make sure that you're using your glucose effectively. Now, some of this is going to go back to our cyclical living, like living within the rhythms of your day and living within the rhythms of your month is going to be part of your metabolic health. But just gentle walks after you eat is a great way of regulating your blood sugar, which
Mhm.
is going to have a domino effect on your fertility. And also, I think on the opposite spectrum, something I see in a lot of women that have come to me with just fertility struggles, and they're not ovulating, and they're really confused. They've been trying to do all the things. They're eating all the right things. They're um, maybe not getting enough calories. I don't know that I've ever had someone come to me with infertility struggles and been eating enough.
Mhm.
But I also see them over exercising, and they're
Mhm.
already in a state of depletion, and they're putting such heavy, like these heavy exercises, these hit exercises, these CrossFit, all of this stuff that is just like heavy, heavy, heavy work, and high cardio, high burn rate of things, and they're doing it to get healthy. And yet they're putting themselves into a place of like they don't have the stuff in the bank account to cash that check. And so
Yeah.
they're not eating enough already. They're burning more than they can. They're in an incredible calorie deficit, and it's not a good thing. And their body is like, okay, we can't put
Mhm.
another little life to support here. So over exercising without looking at those other things we've talked about, and knowing whether your body can handle that type of uh, heavy load of exercise is so important. Now, that doesn't mean don't exercise. It doesn't mean like become, a couch potato, but like natural movement, nourishing movement. I think of
Mhm.
people like Katie Bowman, um,
Yeah.
and uh, who else does it? One of my favorite people no longer is in the world. Lisa Gillespie. She used to put out so much stuff. Her stuff's all gone. But Katie
Mm.
Bowman has a lot of like nourishing movement, natural, functional movement. Like, how are you, like, are you squatting throughout your day? Are you using your body the way it was designed? The body ready method, Lindsay McCoy talks a lot about that too. Just using your body in a functional way so that it is fit. In that way, you have mobility, you have function, versus this like over exercising to beat your body up.
Yes. Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up. Yep. Yes. So important.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Well, that was kind of
right.
our practical like flyby for
Flyby.
preconception. And
Absolutely.
I guess we just wanted to end again with circling back to what we began with, which was we hope that doesn't land as a really heavy burden, too hard for you to bear,
Yeah.
but just helps you catch a vision of the ways that you can cooperate with God's purposes for your body and your womb and your future family by tending well to the garden of you, and
Yeah.
start with one or two things if this feels overwhelming. And also ultimately recognizing, of course, again, as we already said, that even if you're doing all these things perfectly and you're not falling pregnant and you want to be, it comes back to this holding the hope that you will eventually see the fruit of your yes, alongside the surrender with
Yes.
that sometimes God has reasons for timing that you don't get to know about,
Yes.
that will feel frustrating and even painful. But He's good, and He knows what He's doing, and He loves you, And it's not because you aren't working or striving hard enough. You know,
Yes.
there's so
Yes.
much grace. We know for a fact that he can bring full-term healthy pregnancies out of women who are doing nothing to take care of their bodies. So
Mhm.
never think it's all on you, sister. It's not. Um,
Yes.
but I think there's some joy in being proactive about these things too, and just good
Absolutely.
stewardship. So we hope it
Good.
feels like an invitation to something joyful and not a burden.
Yes. Yes, and amen. And again, we're going to leave you with that prayer that we already offered up, as Brooke offered up earlier. Um, so I guess I just ask that you ready yourself for a prayer. And if this has resonated with you, if that prayer resonated with you, if you are that woman that really wanted to open her heart up to a yes and place her hands upon her womb and commit that to the Lord, in whatever way He's asking you to, um, we offer this prayer one more time.
Father, the creator of life, from whose spoken word all life springs, I agree with you. To be fertile and fruitful is one way you have made me bear your image on the earth. With equal parts joyful anticipation and nervous ambivalence, I present my womb to you, a living
Mm,
sacrifice. You crafted every inch of this messy, sacred temple with brilliant craftsmanship and called it good. This is the place in me that you created to incubate, nourish, and bring forth life.
mm,
And I commit to nourishing that place with my actions and by the posture of my heart toward it. A good gift I will not despise. Into your hands, I entrust my womb and every associated system and process too marvelous for me to understand.
mm,
Apart from your grace holding it all together, blessing and sanctifying it, it is nothing. I cannot force life any more than I can direct the course of a river, nor can I prevent life if you have purpose to give it, no matter the efforts I extend to do so. Truly, this is not so much in my control as I like to think it is. Forgive me for the times that I've positioned myself as a god over this part of my life. You haven't given me this sacred responsibility and this sacred inner sanctum as a burden to control, but as a gift to steward, surrender, and entrust to you. You who sees further and deeper than I ever could, and you who are called the God who sees me.
mm,
I trust you to know whether, when, how, and with whom to fill my womb with life. And while that part is up to you, I will faithfully tend to the responsibilities that are mine. Use it as you will, Lord. Thank you for creating me as a woman. May I know you more deeply through this unique female body in which I am clothed.
mm,
Amen.
mm.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Holy Wild Birth. We hope that you were genuinely encouraged, inspired, and challenged by what you heard today. If you're loving what you hear, please make sure that you share it. Leave reviews. That helps other mamas find this content as well. And don't forget to read the show notes, okay? Because that's where you can find our email address if you want to reach out to us and start a conversation. It's also where you'll find free offerings as well as invitations to work with me and or Lauren. We can't wait to get to know you. See you next week.